Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Let's Get Blunt podcast, where we roll up something sweet, pull up a seat, and get blunt about our healing. Today, we have the beautiful Seryna Myers. For those who do not know me, my name is Ty Johnson Anderson. I am your guide, your host, your manifestation guru, all rolled up into one. Before we get started, and before I let Seryna introduce herself, gotta say the sponsor, sponsor Golden Earth Botanics, where we are an alternative dispensary where we heal from the inside out. We help you heal your mind, body, and spirit through CBD, hemp, and terpenes. So we're gonna, well, no. So today is brought to you by, what is this? I'm sorry. I come on here. Hi, guys. Sorry. So today we are featuring one of their wraps. This is the Money Ritual wrap, which is a $100 bill wrapped around my OG Kush. Is the blend that I have today. We have OG Kush and we have Peace of Mind sprinkled in there to kind of even out the high, kind of, but it makes it real chill. So, hi, Seryna.
Hello.
Feel free to introduce yourself.
So I'm Seryna Myers. I am a sacred transformation coach, community holder, ceremonialist. I wrote a book called Sacred Anger, which looks at this sort of taboo emotion as a sacred teacher instead. And I'm just so happy to come and hang with you today.
Awesome. So, speaking of which, we're both like super intuitive, right? So today I have champagne.
Ooh.
Right. And I don't know what we're celebrating. But we're celebrating today. And so that means you're going to be celebrating soon as well. So I'm going to open this bottle of champagne because why is it so hard? Maybe because my fingernails, man. But yeah, I have no clue what we are. Ooh, it is the possibilities. Okay, I like it.
You know what it makes me think of is the conversation we were having at the start of, like, before we started recording, about that, that 2-ish year space of waiting for guidance, for knowing, for trusting. And this feels like that like I call that limbo, because I felt like I was in limbo for that same kind of period, about 18 months. And this feels like the other side of limbo, where there is nothing but possibility. Like, that's so perfect.
Exactly. So the question that came up this morning while tuning into our session is, what is your purest of desire that you've been denying yourself?
There is this really juicy feeling, and I can tap into it, but I would love to live there permanently. And it's this kind of beautiful blend of, like, stand in your power, boss bitch, with that fully embodied, almost Jessica Rabbit, like, sensual goddess kind of energy. And at the same time, I really like being approachable and not nice, but like someone isn't afraid to come and talk to. I wouldn't say that I'm very nice in particular, but so that kind of, I don't know how you would articulate what the name of that energy is, or that archetype. I know that, like, I dance with her, but I would like to be her, like, all the time.
Okay, so remember when I had Siren? Remember Siren? For those who haven't been around long, Siren is my alter ego. And I let her come out to play for like 2 years. Because I won't say it's just not who I am. It is who I've denied myself the ability to be. And so Ty, in and of herself, had the entire 40 years of her lifehood to like kind of, but Siren was unadulterated. Like it was, I'm going to do what I want. I'm going to post what I want. I'm going to, take photos of lingerie and I'm going to put it online. I am going to like really tap in. I don't really give a fuck what nobody says. And so I let her come out and play for a while. And now I'm moving into integrating where it's just who I am. So I was literally about to ask you, so what's holding you back? And you said that. I say lean into her. Figure that out. Figure out what that looks like. It may look like prancing around in lingerie for a little bit to kind of do it. It may look like mirror work. And it doesn't have to be all or nothing to start. But I think once you tap in, she's gonna be like there full force. And you're not gonna have to play around or figure that out. Because it's already a part of you. Society just told you that's not okay to be.
I was raised Catholic, so that didn't help either, I'm sure. But it's funny that yours is named Siren. Because like with Siren, and my name is Seryna in Spanish, it means mermaid. Like it's really funny that we're having this conversation and those essences have very similar energies. That feels like possibility. That feels like potential to me.
Yeah. So I said, let her play. And that you don't have to know what it looks like. And so that goes back to the allowing the thing to kind of show you what it is, and versus you telling the situation and the circumstances what it's going to be. Right. Because when entering into newness, we don't know what it is. And it's okay, because it's new. Like if you're going to a new job, a new company, the first day, you're not expected to know all the company policy, history, this, that, and like, so I don't know why we put that on ourselves to do when venturing into something new. When we go into something new, like a new job, we go in, eyes open, ears open, and we just soak it all in. You could do the same with venturing into what it looks like for you to fully explore your wholeness of self. And then, because that's going to take the shadow work and the healing and all of that to say that this version of me is okay to be, right? And initially it may come on really strong, like, because Siren was like real strong, like dominatrix, OnlyFans type shit, right? And I let her live that way, get it out. And now it's pulled back into more of like, now I have the feeling of Siren inside. And I don't have to, it's not that I don't, but I don't have to put it out on Front Street, and I don't have to be that every day to feel that way. Right? I lived in like lingerie for like 2 fucking years. I'm not gonna lie. As soon as my daughter went to school, or no, because this was during COVID, as soon as I woke up, I'm in lingerie and a duster. That was my thing, right? Lingerie and a duster. I went on a Shein haul. Like I went on Shein and I did a lingerie haul, and I sat and I took pictures of myself. I listened to music. I smoked. I did my clients. When I saw clients, I was in lingerie. It was just embracing my rawness without judgment. And so I think that's something that may be good for you. How does that feel coming up?
Yeah, I think it feels very right. And it was interesting when you just described it as rawness, because my realization, like literally as soon as you said it, was that I was comfortable with certain aspects of my raw personality. The being from the wrong side of the tracks or whatever, just that kind of rough around the edges, swearing all the time, whatever. That part I had no problem with embracing. But there was still something kind of taboo. And there's times, honestly, that like when I feel it, when I feel the ownership of the power in that energy, there are times where I'm like, holy shit, I don't know. Like I recoil because it's fucking
Scary.
big.
It's
Yeah.
scary. I would
Yeah.
say because ownership of our sexuality has never belonged to us.
Tell me more.
Ownership of our femininity has never belonged to us. It always belonged to some outward source, whether that was the church, for some. For me, growing up, in a Black body, it was my parents. Like, to the point where, no lie, my cycle was tracked on the family calendar on the refrigerator.
Yeah, that's quite up in your stuff. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so I track my daughters now, not for the point of like, bitch, are you pregnant? Because that's kind of what it was for me. You know what I'm saying? It
Yeah.
is more of a, hey, Jay, in a week, make sure you got your pads, your stuff in your locker. Make sure you got snacks at school so you can eat because you're going to be hungry. Make sure you got, all these things, and take a Midol because these are the dates you're coming. Right. So it's not in a place of ownership of her sexuality. It's a place of mentorship in her sexuality. Right.
Yeah, I was just thinking,
But
no one ever did that for me. No one ever had
no,
that degree of support or care. And I think the thing is, I also didn't learn those things. So everything that I do in terms of tending to myself now is stuff I had to learn as an adult because it was not taught or mentored or showed to me as a child or as even a young woman.
but they told you who you couldn't be.
Oh, absolutely, they fucking did.
You know what I'm saying? They never
Yeah.
mentored who you could, but they told you who you couldn't. Right.
Yeah.
And that,
Yeah.
I couldn't even wear a red lipstick because that was for
Mm,
boys.
right.
Right. And
For me,
the
I felt like
thing,
anything that was extra in my personality was dismissed by my astrological sign. Like literally the words, oh, you're such a Leo, were like at least a weekly occurrence for my entire youth, to the point where I thought that was like I grew up with a bunch of Scorpios. So there you go. But I had this belief that there was something wrong with like wanting to shine brightly, wanting to entertain, wanting to be talkative and loud and whatever. It was like that was, and I tamed those parts until probably like my 30s because owning it felt, I don't want to just say bad because bad isn't like enough, but it wasn't appropriate or okay or what ladies do or whatever.
exactly. So I'm going to ask you, what are some things that you wish you could embrace that you hold back from for whatever reason?
Things that I want to embrace that I hold back from.
I can start first if that'll
Yeah,
help
please.
while you
Because I'm
figure that
thinking,
out.
I'm like, I know there's things, but I think
Yeah,
also being a little
because
bit buzzed, they're a little bit out of reach.
I'm gonna let the viewers know, like, these are very impromptu conversations.
Mm-hmm.
I don't prep them because then we're not getting raw healing, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so I don't prep and give questions. I ask what's off limits because sometimes shit will come up and I don't want to like trigger anybody, right? So I do ask what's off limits, but other than that, like, we let this
Yep.
organically be. And there are some things that I haven't allowed myself to fully own, right? And so I am, and this is where spirit is pushing me now. And as we move into the spring equinox, we're being pushed into expansion. And me expansion is this, like getting in front of people. I'm scared to be perceived. As big as I am, as flamboyant as I am, as outgoing as I am, there is a feeling of, are people seeing me the way that I desire to be seen? And then what is their perception of that? What is their perception of my beingness? I think about that a lot, right? And so I hold myself back, and I in the rear with the gears, what the military call it, right? I'm okay being behind the scenes. Like I am probably your favorite psychic's favorite psychic. You know what I'm saying? I am behind multi-million-dollar businesses. I am behind Emmy Award winners. I am behind people who have worked side by side with Oprah. But you don't know about me.
Mm-hmm. The best kept secret.
And I'm the secret, right? And I am a Venus in Leo. So I want to be seen, but I am scared of being perceived. And so I push right up against the glass, right? So I'm okay being a storefront that you can look in, but the door's fucking locked. Like, you can come in this motherfucker.
You can have the password.
Yeah.
I love that.
So I am in the process of unlocking the storefront and allowing myself to be seen and perceived. And I think that's part of the message. If we go back to like some of the stuff we were talking about before we got on, is that a lot of people are seeing me when
I just lost you audio wise. Oh, you're muted. You spontaneously muted.
Yeah.
How powerful is that? Yeah.
So that's what happens. A lot of people are seeing me, and now I'm allowing them to perceive me. And a lot of people are seeing me where I'm not at, and like the Vogue party. Like, Ty, I thought I saw you in the picture of the Vogue party. It wasn't me. She looked like me though, right? And I was like, oh, weird. And
I love that that's happening.
About my outfit choices for my next event, and I don't have one scheduled, right? And so it's just like, okay, spirit speaking, I'm open. And so it's mine is the being perceived, and spirit has been telling me to get out. My therapist told me to get out, meaning of my shell, out my house, because I've built a little bubble here in my home. I am good for being in the world and not of the world, but spirit is asking me to kind of plug into the world, and that's scary for me because the world.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's where I am playing small in. So maybe that had enlightened you to your question of where is it that you're playing yourself small in that you wish you can fully embrace?
I actually feel very similarly to you in terms of that, like dancing with it, like with your storefront. For me, I feel like I've got the open close sign and I'm just flipping it back and forth.
Right.
So yeah, exactly. Like, it's interesting because I see how it shows up, and I don't know what the trigger is which causes the flip of the sign. But I do know that when I am like showing up in my business, I'll be making TikToks, making Instagrams and lives, and I'm doing all the things, and I'm feeling really aligned. But as soon as the alignment shifts, and I feel like there's something probably within me that is causing that, I retreat, and then I won't post for like a month.
You want me to tell you what
very
it is?
On or off? Yes, please.
Is curated content versus live connection. That's something totally different. Like, especially for us intuitives, live connection, I can feel how you feel about me. But as I am curating content, I can just record it. It's just me.
Right.
And I can then put it out there. How you feel about it after that, I don't care, and it doesn't really register. But when I am on stage, I feel all of it.
Yeah.
And I'm
All the
having
time.
to
Yeah.
parse it and all of that. So when you start feeling the feelings of being perceived, feeling the scanning of your body and your energy, you're like, whoop, shut it down.
Yeah. They can see me.
Hightail
Oh
that
my
shit
God.
out of here. Yeah, like,
Like
because
you're trying to be seen and then they see you and you're like,
I am
oh,
gonna
retreat.
ask you, and you could feel free to, volley it back to me afterwards. I am gonna ask you, what is that judgment that you're scared they're going to make? Because you have it. And that's
No,
why
for sure.
that is why you're running from it, because you're scared somebody's going to see it. What is it that you're scared for people to see?
So it's weird because if you had asked me that 10 years ago, 15 years ago, I could tell you 100%. Because I always had this fear of being found out, that people knew I grew up poor, around crime, around violence and addiction and all of that kind of stuff, or that I used to be a phone sex operator. Like I was so afraid for a long
Love
time.
that for you.
Thank you. Thank you. I did go to radio school, so you got to put the voice to work.
Right.
But yeah, there was something that I used to have this big fear of being found out. But like, particularly after my book came out, I'm like, well, my shit's out there. Like everyone knows now, it's fine. The only other thing I can think of is that there is a part of me that believes that my body is a big reason for not being as successful as I should be for the amount that I bring into the world. And so rather than it being something that I'm avoiding, it's more the getting rid of that belief and that feeling and that story.
Yeah. Because I heard it, right? But I wanted to hear your thoughts, because I don't want to be like, it's this,
I saw your
like,
face as soon as I said it.
like,
She knows.
I didn't want, but this is what I found, is that sometimes you moving into the realization anchors it more than me saying what the problem is.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's one of a knowing, and then somebody telling you who you are, you're immediately going to have resistance to that. It's like, no, that's not, but the thing of it is, you'll always be whatever to whoever doesn't like it. That's plain and simple. So if they don't like bigger bodies, it doesn't matter what the fuck you do. You know what I'm saying?
100%, yeah.
You can have, I see bigger bodies that are more like proportioned than mine. I'm like, God damn, she's stacked, right? But if you don't like bigger bodies, you're not even going to see that. You're not going to see the beauty. And it goes back to if they don't like you, they don't like you.
And also that's none of your business. That's the part I'm trying to get to.
That's none of your business, right?
It's nothing to do with my value, my worth, my anything.
Exactly. And plus, there are a niche of individuals that are just like you. I had to tell my daughter this, because that is my shit. And my daughter is kind of playing that back in her years now, is I've always been eccentric, right? And so I do a lot to blend in. My careers, everything was always like, Ty has it all together. Ty knows what she's doing. And I joined the military, and surprise, surprise, I had a playbook that I can go by. Then I got out and I worked at these 3-letter organizations that are literally the same as the fucking military, So I had a playbook of how I'm supposed to dress, how you present, how you speak, how you do all these things. And it's just like, none of it was me. Like, absolutely fucking. The only thing that was me.
Perfect mask, but not you at all.
Exactly. It was not me at all. And so it became to the point where the only part of my beinghood for the majority of the time was my strategic analysis and a little analytical nature. That was the only thing that was my saving grace, until it wasn't. And because at 32, I hit that wall and was like, we can't play pretend anymore. This is dumb. My body was like, this is dumb at 32. It was like, we're not fucking doing that anymore. And it refused to do any of that shit anymore. Like, absolutely not. Right. It was literally not functional until I literally integrated, okay, you win. We're not doing that anymore. Right. And so I'm scared of being seen as weird and having to validate my belief system. I've always believed differently than everybody else. Right. I see nuance where other people don't. It made me a good analyst, right? It made me a good judge of people. It makes me a good psychic. It makes me, it makes me all these good things. But also, when people see it and perceive it, is they don't always see and perceive it as good. And maybe that's my childhood wound of growing up in the hood, right? Being smart. And I know this feels I want to say it feels stereotypical to say, but it's my experience. In the 80s, it wasn't cool to be smart and Black.
Oh,
It just
absolutely not.
wasn't.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That was like immediate ostracizing of like my culture of me. And then there was no refuge because I lived in a community of people who were like, aha, bitch, you're weird. Right? And the only people who didn't were the adults. So I got my praise from the adults. You're smart, you're this. And so that's what I had to be at all times, because that is the only place I was accepted in. All other aspects of me was not accepted. Right? And so that is where Spirit is pushing me in this season of people gonna think what they think. And you don't have any control of that. You have control of how you present and your intention behind those actions. Not to say we're not going to fumble, not to say we're not going to fuck up, not to say that people aren't going to perceive in such a way that was not our intent, right? But then we get to have that conversation, right? I'm scared of getting it to the point of having that conversation.
What is it about that scares you?
Because I don't feel as though I have to validate who and what I am, right? And then two, a lot of my walk is things that I can't validate. You know, a lot of my beinghood are things that I can't validate. You know, Christianity, you could pick up the book and it, again, you guys have a fucking handbook,
Yeah.
It works, right? The way that I live my life, there's no fucking handbook. And in fact, a lot of how I present to be sometimes look like mental illness. If it, it dances on that thin line of like, oh, she's a psychic medium, or the bitch is schizophrenic. You know what I'm saying? It's a very fucking thin line, and I'm scared of being seen in that. Does that make sense? And then making the wrong fucking judgment on it.
And I mean, the thing, I know there's a lot of different cultures that believe that mental illness, particularly when there are like audio and visual hallucinations, that those are actually just spiritual experiences that people haven't been taught to understand too, right? So it's like, there is that line from a societal place, but I think from an energetic place, we're all just getting information and processing it the way that we can. But what I'm hearing underneath everything, like underneath the childhood stuff and how it's expressing itself today and all of that, is that biological hardwired need for belonging. And if you think about like our ancestors, like that's literally life or death. So of course we want to be perceived. And I think like what I'm hearing for you is that because you're getting more and more integrated and comfortable with the beingness that you are, you have also brought in that idea that I can be safe and not be the norm, the stereotypical, I can be on the outside of the pack and honor myself and know that I'm still safe and secure in that. And I think
Right.
that's a really huge place, because so many of us, especially when we live any kind of experience with it, with a rule book, as soon as you don't fit into those rules, you start to be afraid of being left behind and afraid of being cast out. For me,
Right.
I always say I was a bad Catholic because I asked too many questions. I couldn't take anything for just for face value. I always had the, but why? But why? My definition of heaven was different than what I was taught. Like, I couldn't understand the idea that you have Earth with these fallible, fucked up humans who are imperfect, because that's the whole point of being human. They die, but they go to heaven and suddenly they're like perfect and they don't fuck that place up. Like, absolutely not.
Absolutely
And
not. I can
and this is
tell
when
you
I'm like
absolutely
10.
the fuck not.
Yeah. And at 10 years old, and they're telling me in school, like, oh yeah, you die, you go to heaven. I was like, heaven, it, like, that cannot be it, because it doesn't actually make sense. It wasn't that heaven didn't exist, it didn't make sense. The fact that it wasn't fucked up and just like another version of Earth didn't make sense.
Right.
So, I did always have that fear that, I literally got cast out when I was 12. My stepmom kicked me out for doing, like, some pretty like deep seancey stuff where we were like pulling spirits into our bodies, and then the police got called, whatever. It was a whole thing. So I got kicked out of the house for that at 12 years old. So no
Wow.
wonder it took me until like my 30s to actually even admit that I had these gifts, because I
Right.
was literally thrown out of the house for them. And so most of us don't have it where it's literal. Most of us have that fear of abandonment and being left behind and whatever. And it makes sense, because it was, on some level for us, that's life or death.
It is, but it also triggers the animalistic
Mm-hmm.
anxiety energy, right? Because it's one thing to be around others like me, and
Mm-hmm.
that's where I am now. I created my own community, right? And there are other spiritual communities, but I'm accepted there as well. So I can cross over there, come over here. But now they're saying go with
Mainstream.
the mainstream, like go over there to mainstream. And I'm like, are you sure? Like, are you really sure that I got to be over there? Right? Because I don't evangelize, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't get you to believe what I believe. I just believe what I believe. And if you ask questions, I'll answer them. But
Mm-hmm.
I'm not here to convert you. So when you're telling me that I got to go over there, in my mind, I'm not saying that spirit is saying this, because they're not, but in my mind, I am going to have to answer for being the black sheep
Mm-hmm.
amongst all the others,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because to me, they're gonna see that, right?
Yes.
Because when I was younger, people have proven that. Like, I tried my damnedest to blend the fuck in, and for whatever fucking reason, I was always othered,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that is me. So I'm like, it must be something on my forehead that they could fucking read that says you don't belong here, and it's
Yeah.
everywhere I go,
It's also
right?
magnetic though, right? Because that is your
Yeah,
magnetism. That is your ability to manifest. That is just like the frequency that you vibrate at. Like, it's your psychic gifts. It's all of it, right? And I
right.
feel like where we're kind of lucky currently, is that, when you and I met, what, 7 years ago or something,
Something like
Facebook
that.
groups were like all the thing. And then slowly, like everything mystical, everything witchy, everything just started to kind of permeate, and women started to open up to these channels that they weren't seeing before. And
Mm-hmm.
now those of us that were other, that were weird, that were whatever, they knew there was something about us, because you can feel that magnetic pull, but they didn't know what it
Right.
was, so it was easier to other. These are the same people who are now starting to open up and awaken. So that means that A, they need the guides, and B, it's, like 15% less scary than it was before, because there are more people waking up to this every day.
Right. Right. And it is mainstream.
Mm-hmm.
There are popular people who hold similar beliefs
Mm-hmm.
as mine. But again, fear isn't rational.
Exactly. Yeah. Thanks,
um,
fear. You asshole.
I know, but I at least am recognizing it, and I am being forced to move through it. One of my friends is like, I hope you integrated, and that I was like, look, spirit is pushing me through it right now. Like that,
We get there when we get there.
yeah, I don't have a choice. Like, and you know, so while I told them I'm just gonna do it afraid. So that was my message to them. I'm gonna be scared.
Mm-hmm.
Your job is to make sure I do it. So if there is something that I should be doing, they just nag me all day, because that's the only way I'll do it, just to get them to shut up, because I could hear them.
Mm-hmm.
So just to get them to shut up, I'll just do the thing, you know.
Yeah.
And then
do it,
like,
do it
okay.
scared, do it to shut them up.
Exactly. And so I've been showing up in those things. And this podcast was one of them.
I was just going to ask if that's what came. Okay, cool.
Like legit, it was a 10-minute thought process from beginning to end. From ideation to Facebook posts, it was 10 minutes.
Love it.
And so that's the energy I think we're moving into. It is very fast, but choppy.
Mm-hmm.
It's
a
not
lot of needs to pivot.
It's very choppy. This isn't smooth, right?
Mm-hmm.
Although everything is working out for you and everything is just like spot on. Like spirit has been 100. Everything that I've said has been like 100 fucking % correct. So I'm just like, they're on one right now. Like even towards my personal shit and just random shit that they were be like, you need to do this. And I'll be like, why? And then I'll do it. And it like, there's a fucking reason why I needed to be doing that. So they're so spot on right now that I'm just allowing them to push me through and accept them. And that's another
surrender.
That's another thing. But I'm prepared for it. And so for you, I would say just take that first step.
Mm-hmm. Making that my default.
That and the one that expands you, not the one that's like, I feel I can safely do this, right? Putting on lingerie, you probably could be like, I could safely do this, right?
Yeah.
Taking a shot and posting it,
that's a little more.
That's a stretch. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
And we gotta continually stretch, because otherwise we'll shrink.
Yeah. Well, and that's what, I spent probably 15, 20 years of my life shrunk in. I'm in my 40s now. There's no space for shrinking anymore.
No, this is a time where we say, I did it your way.
Mm-hmm.
For the longest. And it's just not working for me, dog. Like it's enough. And I have a philosophy that's all midlife crisis is a spiritual awakening. To where you finally wake up and recognize and realize that the bullshit they sold you was just that bullshit. And it's happening sooner and sooner, right? It's happening in people's 20s now. It's no longer midlife. It's now quarter life crises and things like that, because people are awakening much faster to the fact that what society sets as the standard is bullshit in terms of the actuality of sustaining it, meeting the mark. And even if you do meet that mark, that is always going to be something else to disqualify you.
Well, because they keep moving the goalpost.
Exactly.
So it's like, just as you think you've crossed the finish line, it's like, just a little bit more, where it keeps us in a state of striving, of self-rejection, self-improvement. Like it's this constant little, and it benefits the chosen few. Like this is where I get on my rants about the patriarchy, which I won't do right now, but that's what happens, right? Like the reason it has operated this way is because it kept them rich and in power and making the rules.
Because
And the
if
more that
I
we
consistently tell you you're not enough, you're going to strive for better. And in that, I get cheap labor.
Well, cheap labor, you get to sell product, like capitalism is fed by that machine, right?
Right.
I always think about if someone's feeding you a story that makes you feel like you're not enough, like what's in it for them?
What's in it for them?
Because there's something. Because we don't go around making each other feel like shit just for the sake of it, whether it's to feel better about ourselves, to sell us something, to whatever, to manipulate or control or whatever the story is. We don't do anything without motivation. So if someone is telling you something that makes you feel like shit, what's in it for them?
What's in it for them? And I think people are awakening more early to the point where my daughter's generation doesn't even subscribe to the shit at all.
Yeah.
They're to the point where all that shit is dumb. And that's why you have so many young kids with anxiety disorders and mood disorders and things like that, because society is just not conducive to them.
And also we're not buying into the story that you have to force yourself to be normal. So people aren't masking their symptoms and suffering in silence and everything else as well. I think there's part of it. This is why I believe so much in that the healing that we do is for generations to come, because some of it is that this generation is not buying into it, but also these generations were birthed by the people who were doing those integrations, who were healing those lineages, who were saying, fuck that.
Like millennials. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And so when, these children are entering the world from the bodies that have already integrated the healing, like, of course their capacity is different. Of course their tolerance for bullshit is different. Like they're learning from the best. So like
my daughter calls out her teachers like, that sounds slightly racist and biased. In the middle of social studies. It's just like
I called my gym teacher a sexist pig in grade 8. And I remember and like I got sent to the office and it was like a whole thing, but because he had this idea that
I had to go up to the school. So yeah,
I believe it. But also,
I went up to the school and I fucking doubled down.
Well, because she wouldn't have said that for the sake of it.
Exactly. I went up to the school and I was like, I doubled down on it. And I was like, yeah, it is what it is. And so even that, I healed generations, because we couldn't get in trouble in school. It was always our fault. Like our parents didn't want to hear it. You got me up at the school, taking me away from my job, and like it's your fault. So and I'm not saying this as a way to judge, right? Our parents did what they could with the tools that they had.
We have different tools.
We had different tools. So there is no judgment on it for me and my family. You know what I'm saying? There's no judgment on it for me. But also, when my daughter was scared that I was going to go up to the school and take the teacher's side, I went up to the school and I said, I let her talk first. Tell me what's going on. Then I talked to the teacher. And then I said, I think she's right. And then I got in the car, and then I told her some things that she could have done differently, but I didn't undermine her in front of the person she called the fuck out.
And how healing for her to have that fear that you were going to come in, take the teacher's side, and then to witness you stand with her. Like that is so healing to that part of her that was afraid.
Right. And then when we got in the car, I told her things she could do differently. Or could have.
So she got both.
You're gonna get both, but I'm never gonna cut you down in front of anyone.
Yeah,
we could do that in private, But I'm gonna stand in solidarity with you.
I love that
in public, you know, especially when you're making what you deem to be the right decision. This wasn't a bad decision type of thing. You deemed that you were making the right decision, so I am going to back you up on that. And then in the car, we have our teachable moments.
Well, I think they're both teachable moments, just different
Yeah.
ones, right?
Yeah.
One's like a heart teaching and one is like a head teaching.
So what could you do as the mom to your inner child?
Mm.
To
I haven't
give
hung out with her for a
that
while, to be
feeling
honest.
of safety.
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't hung out with her for quite a while. And I think that that's also probably when she starts to retract, which makes me start to, because she's probably the brightest part of me, to be honest.
Right.
Yeah, I think I just need to actually make some space with her, play and have fun and let it be silly. And then remember that part of being seen and being brought along. I'm
I hear
hearing you've got
like
something
play
else.
dress up.
Play dress up?
Allow
Oh,
yourself to play dress up.
I have to tell you, I almost came on the call today in a red tutu. It just came in. It's so cute. I put it on. And as soon as I sat on the couch, I slipped off because it's so slippery. Because it's like not a crinoline, or a tulle or something.
Yeah.
Anyway, there was definitely a part of me desiring dress up because that was my intention. I even have like my little red ring on still. My intention was to wear the red poofy tutu, but I was falling off the couch and I wasn't going to be able to stay up for the
we
call.
would have matched almost.
Yes. Oh, and it's a really nice pink, by the way.
Thank you. This was a last minute decision.
Mine was too, only caused by flying off the couch. So there you go.
So allow yourself to play dress up. Allow yourself, there's this trend. I think it's called the ceilings trend on TikTok. Oh. And it's like, when it's over, that song. And it's like they're running and they're taking off their like clothes and it reveals this really flowy fucking dress. And
oh, cool.
And so it's like run in the fields, kind of allow her to be free.
Yeah.
Whatever that looks like. Allow her to be free.
She's been caged long enough.
Right. And I'm not even sure what that looks like for me. I think for me, that looks like not running back to the safety of what I know, of conformity.
Mm-hmm.
Because my issue isn't what I'm doing. I love what I'm doing. My issue is now that people are going to start perceiving what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. I've been doing it in a bubble of spirituality for 10 years. Mm-hmm. And there's, I created a really good community of supportive individuals and things like that to now where I'm widening it, right? And so answering to that. And so I was going to start looking for another analytical position. Like literally last week, I was like, I'm going to go on Indeed. And so that I'm processing this real time. Yeah. And I thought it was, safety, security, stability, right? But now that we've had this conversation, it feels like putting on the mask to not be perceived again.
Yeah, it's safety, security wrapped in the shell of inauthenticity.
Of the mask. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Because then you never actually truly feel safe because there is a belief if you're masking, the real me isn't safe. I have to pretend to be something else in order to feel safe. It's fake safety. It's not.
Right.
Yeah.
So that is me going back to the comforts of assimilating to not be perceived, because I could say, oh, I am an intelligence analyst with the NSA. And, everybody's like, versus, I own a CBD company and I'm a psychic medium, right? Mm-hmm. I always got an answer to that. Like, I say that and there's like,
it's either dead air or 1,000 questions. It's no
exactly. There's no in between. But when I say I'm an analyst with the NSA, it's just like, cool, you read it, bravo.
Yeah. And also, what are they going to say to that?
Questions.
Yeah.
And in that job, I can't answer any questions, right? And so
it's like the perfect mask.
It's the perfect fucking job to not be perceived.
Yeah. Yeah, I
And
feel like
then,
it's the
like,
feeling that you're chasing of the safety and security.
yeah,
That's the feeling. It's not about wanting the job. It's about wanting what the job gives. So then it's what do you need to do you
right.
and still have that same feeling of safety and security.
It is just do the things, right? Which is this, you
Mm-hmm.
know, which is I recently rebranded my CBD company to where like all the packages look like tarot cards if you haven't like so you know, all the packages look like tarot cards, even though we're not a spiritual CBD brand, but that's part of our ethos, right? Healing
Mm-hmm.
the mind, body, spirit. We don't shy away from that. And so all the packaging looks like tarot cards. And I was like, people are going to want to collect these, right? But it hasn't popped yet, right? So now
Mm.
it's just like, did I do that right? You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
and so since it hasn't popped yet, you want to run and retreat and go
Mm-hmm.
back to what is,
Yeah.
you know, what I know I
And
could do
staying the
well.
course.
But I also know I could do that with my eyes closed. Like
Yeah.
analysis is just I'm a Virgo. Like I do
I
that.
know. It's kind of perfect. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a job I don't have to think about. I don't have to like do anything. I don't have to be perceived because, you know, need to know and all that. And I get to be safe in that and go and do that. And then the security of that pay every 2 weeks, right?
Of course. Mm-hmm.
But I also know that they don't value me there.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I left in the first place, you know,
Mm-hmm.
because there's a cap on my value there. I am that part of my issue was I am an asset. I am not a person.
Yeah.
I am nothing but an asset like a computer,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Which is
How,
great for the hiding part and the not being
exactly.
seen, but not
Exactly.
for
But it's bad for the
that
part
whole living.
that wants autonomy, that wants to live
Yeah.
her life, you know? But I last week I was like, oh yeah, I could do this. I'm gonna go back. And I gave all the reasons why that made rational sense,
Mm-hmm.
right? But at the core of it, it is I was running
Mm-hmm.
because if I'm gonna be back in society, I need a disguise.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yes.
my job would be the fucking disguise that I wore to blend the fuck in.
There's something too that I have to remind myself of, and I know this definitely applies to you because I know that pull of the muggle world is like really strong when
Correct.
we're not getting to do like everything that we want and to the level that we want to be doing it.
Right.
Um, we are visionary people, so our ideas, the things we're creating, the things that we're launching, they're entering the world before the world is entirely ready. And this is why this idea of stay the course has been so important for me because I want to retreat when things don't go well. Like it hurts my feelings. I pour this love into it.
I question it.
And
I
yeah,
question because I hear what I'm supposed to do. So I do
same.
it and it
Yeah.
doesn't equate to anything. So now I start questioning, did I hear what I heard?
Yeah, but you did. It's just
Yeah.
that you heard it earlier than the world was ready. Like my first company launched in 2014. It was like an energetic bath and body company. So everything had like Reiki, crystal healing, and aromatherapy all in one. It was like they were amazing. Today, that would sell no problem. In 2014, like people were just scratching their heads as though I was like alien. So they were buying it because they liked how it smelled, not about the whole experience that it offered, which was the entire point. And so
Right.
now that I'm getting into these new ideas of how I want to do business, I have to remind myself, you might have to like hang out and be patient. This might take a little time to build because people aren't doing it like this yet. And that's okay because we're here and we're ready when they are.
And this is crazy because Spirit just told, I usually like this at the beginning of the session.
Mm-hmm.
Because this is my timer. right?
Oh, I love it.
And so I know these burn for an hour. I have really big ones that burn for 3 hours, but this is my timer. And I literally just lit it because I have a feeling as though the extended conversation is going to be where the really good, juicy shit is in terms
Ooh.
of healing the people that are on. But the only people that get the extended conversations are those that join Patreon. You could join the Patreon for as low as $10 a month, and you get extended videos, unedited. We have after conversations. We have pop-up healings. We have smoke sessions. We have monthly energy readings. We have first Tuesday yoga sessions, and like we're lit. We're in a community and we're building in a community. So I invite you to join. The Patreon link will be in the description box. But I want us to figure out, like, I need you to bring me back, anchor me, because I'm out there. So where were we?
We've been to a lot of places today, Ty. Oh, we're talking about masking
Yes,
and
the maps.
hiding in the muggle world and
Yeah.
and doing that work and that healing to allow ourselves to be seen in our wholeness, in our truth.
Right. And I think that is easier said than done when we're reminded of what that felt like growing up. Because for most of us, this isn't our first time being ostracized, right? This isn't our first time being put out of the group.
Yeah.
So now asking us to move back into that possibility is scary because as young children, we felt so unprotected. We felt so vulnerable. Like, really, especially our age group, right? My daughter has me around a lot more than I had my mom around, right? I had my siblings. We kind of like grew up in ourselves as siblings and helping each other out, more than it was like my mom every day on her ass about shit, you know? And so it felt very vulnerable, right? You know, I was the latchkey kid, you know, and again, our parents did what they had to do. They were the generation where it wasn't enough for one job. That started with them. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't enough to just have one job anymore. They had to have multiple to make ends meet, to feed the kids that they have, to give them options and things like that. Started with them. So there's no judgment there. I'm not judging, I'm stating the reality, right? And so it felt so fucking vulnerable to like run home every day from school. You know what I'm saying? And that's why it really pisses me off when people are talking about, oh, bullying is a rite of passage. And I'm like, no, the fuck it's not. Like,
and if it is, it shouldn't
traumatic.
be.
It's traumatic. It is not, it doesn't make you stronger. It doesn't. You know, to the outside world, it might make you put on a shell, but it's not making you stronger. On the inside,
It's
you're
harder.
still fractured, right?
Yeah.
You know, you're still fractured on the inside. And so to ask us to then go back out into the collective, because we got called out of the collective about 10 years ago or more. How old is Jay? 13. So like 12, 13 years ago, we got called out of the collective and we started doing the inner work and the healing. And a lot of us walked in our power. We activated a lot of people. We healed a lot of people along the way. And a boot camp type situation, right? Now we're graduating boot camp and going out into the world. And it's just like, am I prepared for that? Am I ready for that? Especially as a mentor. Like,
yes,
what does
because there's
that
the
look like?
responsibility. There's your own healing and the
Yeah,
responsibility that you have in what you teach.
right. But I may not be ready, but I am prepared.
I think you're
And
probably more ready than you think you are. I would say the same thing about myself. You know, the ego part of us that wants to keep us safe, but also small, it's going to tell us anything that it has to say, oh, you're not ready. You're not ready.
right,
But my belief is that we are in tune and in line enough that we would only be presented with things that we were ready for.
right,
I trust in the divine to not fuck me up for fun. Like, I do really think that when it presents
right,
something, it's because even if I don't feel ready, I probably am. And then it's, what do I need to do to feel as ready as I actually am?
right, right. Because everything feels on the fly. It
Mm-hmm.
feels like you're not getting the information till you absolutely need the information. But I
Mm-hmm.
should be used to that. The military does that a lot. It's called
Yep.
OPSEC, is what we call OPSEC, right? Operational security. So if I don't tell you ahead of time, you don't have enough time to tell anybody else,
Right.
right? So they would tell us to be at the flight line at 3. We don't leave until fucking 8. And it used to piss us off because it's, you might hear the veterans go, oh, there's a lot of hurry up and wait, hurry up and wait. It's because if you told them we're flying off at 3, we're not. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? We're not flying until 8 o'clock. Sit your ass down.
Yeah.
And it's infuriating, but I also believe Spirit is doing that in a way to protect the plan
Mm-hmm.
and the mission. Because if you tell me ahead of time, I'm going to do what I do, and I'm going to research, and I'm going to analyze, and I'm going to strategize, and I'm going to like try to make it fit a model or something. And they don't want me to do that. So now they're just saying, buy the ticket. And it's just like, why? Just buy the fucking ticket. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, buy a ticket. Do your hair. I'm locking my hair back up this weekend. And it's like, well, lock your hair back up this weekend. And I'm like, why got to be this weekend? Like, what's the rush? And
Mm-hmm.
they're like, can you just lock your hair back up this weekend? Like, I'm like, okay, whatever. And then I'm like,
It's a,
well, I don't want to, I don't have it to pay. That's like a hefty investment. And
mm-hmm.
they're like, do it yourself. And I'm just like, well, I didn't really plan on doing it myself. And it's just like, do it yourself. So now I am locking my own hair this weekend, and I'm capable. I know how to do it. I
Mm-hmm.
locked my daughter's hair. But that's not what I planned for,
Mm-hmm.
how I was going to do it again with my hair. And they were just like, yeah, scrap all that. What you thought you were going to do. This is what's going to happen. And they've been doing a lot of that lately
Yeah,
because that
it's like a trust
overrides this.
initiation.
Yeah, it overrides this.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like, just do it. And I don't know if you've been seeing a lot of synchronicities.
Yes.
And so we're going to say cheers to your next level. Cheers
And to
to what's
yours.
next. There's a 6-figure contract somewhere floating around you. I don't know if you're in the works with something, or if somebody reached out to you about something. There's a lot of money floating around you right now.
I'm ready. It's like, actually, like, whew, come on in. I'm here for it.
Yes. So we're gonna leave you guys with that. For those of your Patreon members, there will be more after this, but for everyone else, we're going to leave you with that. We thank you for joining us on today's Let's Get Blunt. The overall message here is just to move in your alignment, and you're safe, you're secure. God got you, the universe got you, and spirit got you. Right? All right, my loves. Bye.